We are good to go.
All right, we'll start the Improvement Service Committee of October 14th, and we'll note that all members are here: Alder Burnett, Alder Gerlach, Alder Scannell, and Alder Weary. Can I have an approval of the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion by Alder Scannell, second by Alder Burnett to approve the agenda. Any changes? Those in favor?
Do we need to
Aye.
move anything around because of people not being here? I mean, we know Paul's Pantry is here. Do we need to move things around?
Well, trying to speak real slowly to buy him some time to log in.
I mean, I would suggest we move number 3 up to the beginning and start there since we have a person here.
If you,
Sure, why don't we?
yeah, I made the motion to approve. I'd like to substitute that, the motion to amend the agenda to put 3 to the top of the agenda.
Okay, so 312.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the new agenda going 312.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. And I have approval of the minutes from the last meeting.
Motion to
moved.
approve.
Second.
Motion by Alder Scannell, second by Alder Burnett. Any changes there? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. All right, number 3, consideration with possible action on request for Paul's Pantry Incorporated to rescind the special assessments for pavement construction levy against parcel 2271 assist construction project. This was referred back from our last meeting. Do we need our city attorney here for this one?
Nope,
Steve?
I don't think so.
Are you taking it? Okay. Well, why don't you go first? I know we kind of referred this to staff, so.
Yep. So what we did with this referral to staff to take a look at things, it gave us the opportunity to go back and look at the assessments that were levied originally. And what we were able to determine was the Wisconsin Department of Transportation actually owns access rights along Webster Avenue further south than we had originally known. So about the north half of the parcel in question, the DOT still owns the access rights, so there would not be a benefit for the adjoining parcel on that north half. So that's going to reduce the amount of assessments in the first place. Because the assessment length differed from what we had originally assessed, we are obligated by state statute to go back and reconsider the assessments. When we started looking at that, it reminded me of when we extended East Mason Street between Erie Road and Finger through the I-43 Industrial Park. And there were property owners abutting that where it was farm field, and they were going to have large assessments against the farm field. And what those folks had done was they had voluntarily surrendered their right of access to the road, and because they surrendered that right of access, there's no special benefit to the abutting property owner. So with that knowledge in mind, I first had a conversation with the city attorney's office, who concurred with our approach. I reached out and talked to Mr. Hornacek, and Mr. Hornacek identified at the last meeting that they never have any intent of having a driveway. So I asked, would Paul's Pantry, would your board be in concurrence with an approach where you would voluntarily relinquish your access rights to Webster, and if you have no access rights, there is no special benefit, the assessment goes away. What we offered up was it needs to be a recorded document, so to be recorded on the deed of the property that they have asked for a indefinite deferral. So because they've deferred, they would receive an indefinite deferral in exchange for relinquishing their access rights. By indefinitely deferring, if they were ever to sell that property for any reason and somebody wanted to reinstitute that right, get the ability to have a driveway again, they would simply have to pay the assessment in effect at the time that they would ask for those assessment rights or those access rights back in. So I provided that option to Mr. Hornacek. He went back, discussed that with the board, and the board was in concurrence. So I believe he's here if you have any questions for him. So we were able to find a mutually beneficial way to resolve this and preserve those rights should Paul's Pantry or anybody else in the future wish to reinstitute those rights.
Wow, good job. Committee wishes to hear from the applicant. Go ahead, Alder Burnett.
Yeah, first question for Director Grenier. Then I'd make a motion to open the floor. Thank you, by the way. I think that was a very good and proper approach to take, and I'm glad it had a good outcome, pending a vote, of course. But if we go ahead and vote this, is this going to be kind of an open? It would only they'd only have to pay if they were to sell the property. Is that correct?
Nope.
Right.
Should they wish to anyone who would wish to have those rights reinstated
Okay.
would have to settle up at that time.
Gotcha. Now, the reason the last year or two, like we've had issues where a property owner was not aware of a situation that happened in the past, and then it comes to a property sale, then we have these issues come up. So that in no ways that is the case here.
Again, that's why we are requiring that be recorded on the deed for the property. That way, at any time that there was a property transfer, any time somebody goes and looks at the deed, it's on there. In talking to our right-of-way specialist, Tom Giese,
Yep.
normally I think it's a $30 recording fee with the clerk of courts to have something recorded on the deed. And we found that with things like this, folks weren't recording them. So it has been a long-standing policy. Tom said it's well in excess of 20 years. We'll actually take care of the recording fee and record that on behalf of Paul's Pantry. But that way it's on the deed, and then there are no questions like that in the future.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Make a motion to open the floor to hear from interested parties.
Second.
All right. Motion by Alder Burnett, second by Alder Gerlach to open the floor for interested parties. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay. Is there anyone here wishing to address the committee on this item? Just Mr. Hornacek, hello. Just your name and address, please.
Yes, it's Bob Hornacek, Assistant Director of Paul's Pantry at 1520 Leo Frigo Way. I wanted to thank you for having us back. Thank you, Mr. Grenier, for the conversation we had about this earlier this week and a little bit last week. Just to clarify a couple things, and then just to basically point out it was a very good representation of the conversations we've had. One small exception. It wasn't anything we brought to our full board. I spoke with our executive director, Craig Robbins, and the board chairman of the Paul's Pantry board, who were both in agreement. They're the two who had been speaking to this committee, I believe, about a year and a half ago. So just to circle that back. Our goal with all of this was to alleviate the $17,000 burden from the charge. So that this solution would take care of that. We also do have no intent on ever opening up access on that parcel to Webster Avenue. So we're kind of indefinitely deferring the access of which we really have no intent to utilize. So that's not necessarily an issue. So as far as a solution goes, I think it makes a lot of sense for us. As long as it's as simple as it was outlined to us, we would have no problem going forward with it. The 2 points and I mentioned this to Mr. Grenier on the phone conversation, but I just want to mention it to the committee because the 2 points it doesn't address from our previous conversation is, number one, it doesn't address the future. One of the things we wanted to do was to discuss the city policy for special assessments and whether they ought to apply to nonprofits like Paul's Pantry. So I think just want to make that point for this committee or for the city to figure out at some point what does the future look like for road assessments. I just don't want to be back here whenever they build another road or have another nonprofit in our shoes. Where they're receiving a special assessment and they're wondering why. So it would be great for clarity for the future if the city could address this in some way. So that's kind of big picture wise. And then it also doesn't necessarily address the specific concerns that we had about this particular assessment and what we didn't think was necessarily a valid assessment. As I mentioned to Mr. Grenier on the phone, that's maybe a conversation that we never need to have with this, because it seems like there's a solution to alleviate our concerns in the near term, and really not have it rear its ugly head. But we obviously had some questions about the assessment in general and whether it was appropriate. But if there's a way to get rid of the $17,000 current charge, as well as us not accessing the road we have no intent to access, it seems like that's the easiest way to go about meeting everybody's goal. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Hornacek? Any questions? Okay, anyone else here wishing to speak to this item? Anything else, Mr. Hornacek?
Well, just one question, I guess, then. Is this something that the city, that this committee, that the council needs to take action on, or is this really simply something to work out with staff to figure out, to finalize the details? Just need to know if I need to come to another meeting.
Oh, certainly. Well, I think that's probably what we'll be discussing, part of it, definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. I'll entertain a motion to close the floor.
Motion to close.
Second.
Motion by Scannell, second by Gerlach. Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Steve, is this something that we need to take action on to approve it?
Yes.
Or is this something that,
Yes, this would be an action item, and it will go before the common council. I don't see, especially pending how the vote goes tonight, but because it was a positive resolution, I don't see this as being controversial. Obviously, Mr. Hornacek would be very welcome to attend council next Tuesday, but I don't know necessarily that it would be required.
okay. And for Mr. Hoff as well, and for Paul's, everything we do tonight will be going to city council next week. So we report to them, we give them our recommendation. So that being said, what your wishes committee, any questions or a motion?
I will make a motion. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I make all the motions. Take it.
Yes, you do, you snowflake.
Yeah.
So I move that we approve the reduction in the assessment as staff has presented it, and the deferral of the assessment per the deed for the future. Does that work?
Was there a reduction?
Yes.
It would be to rescind the assessment in exchange for voluntary relinquishing of access rights recorded on the deed.
Didn't I say that?
That's exactly what you said.
That's what I heard. Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah. I'll second that.
Pretty close. Okay. So
That's
there's a
a
motion by Alder Gerlach, second by Alder Scannell. Under discussion, anybody, any questions? Alder Burnett?
Yeah, and I just really just want to, Mr. Hornacek, your comments are duly noted. I think when we instituted the wheel tax, there are some properties that have come up here and there that we're kind of working through. And so I just want to make sure you know that we appreciate your comments, because that's the last thing we want to do is have improper assessments levied on any property. So.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
For
Alder Gerlach.
Director Grenier, can you tell us now that you've removed the part of the assessment that shouldn't have been there in the first place because it was Wisconsin DOT, I believe you said? What is the total assessment now?
There will not be one. We had to remove that anyway. We're obligated to do that by state statute. So the remaining part that they would have had access rights on, they've relinquished those access rights. So because they no longer have a special benefit, you are rescinding the assessment associated with the remainder.
Right, but what I'm wondering is, you say it's now on the deed, and if another owner wishes to, or if at some time in the future they wish to have access to Webster Street, they will have to pay the assessment. I was just wondering what the total is now.
I don't have that number in front of me. It was roughly half. About half of the property was DOT access rights, and half of the property would have still been subject to assessment.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Alder Dorf?
Alder Galvin is waiting for the host to let him in. Just needing to let you know.
Thanks.
I think we
Okay,
should charge him.
I'm not, hang on a second, I'm going to run over to the podium. I don't see him in the queue.
We tell him to hurry up and then we lock the door.
Any other discussion on this item? No? Okay. I think we had a motion and a second. We'll wait till Steve comes back. This is normally where Randy sings,
Yeah. I'm feeling blue.
but that's why we cut it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay.
That'll go on to council. Thanks. All right, so we move on to item number 1, consideration with possible action and request by Brian Hoff to appeal the nuisance litter and solid waste materials invoice of $411.89 at 1019 Velp Avenue, referred back from INS. And, staff, I don't know if you want to recap again. Committee, do we need to recap quick or?
Paul Van Kelster, Chief Building Official, I see is on the line with us.
Oh,
So
okay.
if Paul wants to give a quick staff reminder of what the inspection department had, we would definitely welcome that from him.
Sure, Paul.
Oh, there we go. Unmuted. Yeah, just to recap, it's the follow-up, the lot cleanup that was done by Mr. Pappy and Brenda at the time for exterior garbage that needed to be cleaned up, that their orders were issued on, and the items weren't picked up on their own, so we did the lot cleanup.
I have a question.
Questions, Alder Gala? Go ahead, Alder Gala.
I've been wondering what initiated this. Why would the city go out to clean up somebody's yard? What started that?
We do that on a regular basis. We'll get a complaint, and some of the complaints will be, litter in the yard. So what we'll do is we'll give them time to address the issue, to clean it up and fix it up on their own. If they don't do that, then we use Director Grenier's crews to go out and do the cleanup, and then we bill the property owner.
So what I was wanting to establish is that there was a complaint.
Yes, there was.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
There were numerous complaints on this particular address. Probably a month ago already, we went to Protection and Policy to debate whether or not the reinspection fees should be held for this property, and they were. And now we're here tonight debating whether or not the lot cleanup was justified for what was picked up as garbage.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for staff? Otherwise, we do have someone here if you want to open the floor.
Motion to open the floor.
Second?
Second. Motion by Elder Scannell, second by Elder Gala to open the floor. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Anybody here for this item, just give me your name and address, and the floor is yours. I assume, Mr. Hoff, you want to speak?
Yes, thank you, guys. My name is Brian Hoff. I'm the property owner at 1019 Velp Avenue. I agree wholeheartedly with everything that Mr. Van Kelster just reiterated. I have had some tenants in that property that have not been the cleanest. So I'm not here to sit and say that these guys haven't been without their warnings. The reason we're here tonight, I did appeal the inspections and the reinspection fees previously. However, we did not have the $411 cleanup bill at that time, so they said I had to reapply and come to this committee to have that taken care of. I guess, like I said, what Mr. Van Kelster said, there have been supposedly a bunch of complaints on this property. I don't know how or where they're coming from because there's a 6-foot fence that lines the back of the property. It's a narrow lot. All the complaints have really been generated from basically anywhere the trash is, which is in the back of the house. To one side of the building is an empty lot, actually two empty lots that are owned by the city of Green Bay. It's at basically this home is at that roundabout intersection where Velp and Road meet. And then on the other, further down the road is the gas station. So you have the gas station, the 2 empty lots, and then my property. So I guess I don't know where these complaints are coming from, first of all, and nobody can tell me. And I get the whole deal that there's retaliation. People are concerned about retaliation or whatever. So I'm not privy to that information. I've gone back and forth with Brenda Seidel was the person that I was dealing with mostly, and I had a lot of issues with Brenda. She was overstretching and overreaching a lot of her definitions as to what was garbage and what was not. I actually communicated that a couple of times to Mr. Scannell. He's the alder for my area. So I called to talk to Mr. Scannell about it, and he gave me some pointers and said, you know, hey, we have to go to these committees and so on and so forth. Well, moving forward, there was a site or I guess a re-inspection again, and my tenants called me and said there were I'm sorry, I scheduled an appointment with Mr. Pappy and Brenda to meet me at the property to discuss the issues, because we were completely at odds with what she was asking for. Simple things like the tenants there, they had an extra garbage container that when their main bin was full, they would have garbage in that. Brenda made me remove that. And then once she removed that, she then told me and the tenants that there's no trash to be stored inside the garage. So we had to remove the bin. We couldn't put anything in the garage. So the day that they came and did the cleanup, there were 2 or 3 bags of trash because the bin was full. And they were sitting right next to the bin on the back side of the house. She had an issue with chairs. They were what she was calling were not outdoor chairs. I guess I still completely disagree with what her definition of actually there is no definition. By the city of Green Bay standards, there is zero definition as to what is classified an indoor chair and an outdoor chair. I've looked, I've read all of the ordinances and whatnot. So there's no definition. And I guess I'm not here to argue that. So she felt that these chairs needed to go. She felt that a piece of countertop that my young tenants were utilizing for a grilling surface needed to go. And she didn't care for there was some beer cans in the fire pit they had there. So I got a phone call. We had a major disagreement, and Mr. Pappy was there as well, who I'd like to say right at this point, I see Bill's on here now. Him and I have been working very well together. So this is in no means anything bad towards Mr. Pappy, because I do appreciate his willingness to work with me on this. But what I'm here today is they came in, they took these chairs that she couldn't give me a definition were both outdoor or indoor chairs. She took the trash bags that were sitting next to the bin, never emptied the bin, but took the 2 trash bags that were sitting there that I was told I couldn't have an extra container for and I couldn't be storing in the garage. The piece of countertop, there was let's say a pre-built fire. They had a few logs in the fire pit for the next time they were going to burn. And in that was a wooden TV tray that they planned to burn, but apparently that's not burning material, even though it's made out of wood. It was not burning material. So they came and did the yard cleanup. I got the phone call. I went over there immediately. They were already gone. They were only on the property for about 5 or 10 minutes. And when I got there, I don't know if you guys got the packet or the photos. I can certainly hold my cell phone up, but there was still stuff left in the fire pit that was not removed. There was some construction materials that were not removed from the property during this lot cleanup. And these are all items that at the time Brenda had major issues with. So the reason that I'm appealing is I think the city came in and took stuff that that they shouldn't have taken, first of all. And then secondly, they left the stuff that they should have taken. So in my opinion on this matter, they didn't do the job they were there to do. You know, I have been fighting this, and I just want it all over with. And like I said, Mr. Pappy and I have been in communication with what needs to be done to the property. We're working together on it. I'm trying to be a good landlord. It's my first residential property that I own, and you know, I don't know everything either. So you know, I'm trying to get things fixed as you know, as they come up. And a big difference of opinion with myself and Brenda. And I understand Brenda's no longer with the city anymore. So at the end of the day, here I sit with a $411 bill for cleanup of something I didn't feel that she should have taken, and that they left the things that should have been taken, that you know, that would be considered debris. So that's really all I have to say is, you know, I'm just hoping that we can come to an agreement. I have paid all the other inspection and reinspection fees. That those checks have been issued. City's paid up to date on that. I just don't feel the $411 is due at this point, because I was doing certain things that she was telling me to do, and then came back and it was completely the opposite. So,
Thank you, Mr. Hoff. Any questions from the committee? From Mr. Hoff, Alder Gala?
Just a couple questions, sir. One question, is this an individual single-family dwelling, or is this multiple units?
so the home is a. It's kind of a loaded question. When I purchased it, the home is an upper lower, and the only thing that separated the upper lower was actually there's in the stairway there were boards that basically covered a doorway. That's really all it was. The home is metered and electrically for upper lower, but simply when I purchased the property, I unscrewed the boards that were boarding up a doorway, and I converted it back to a single family. And I have 3 young male tenants there that, you know, they were 20 years old when they moved in. They're all 21, 22 at this point now.
Thank you. I just wanted to know how many people and how many family units were in the home. My question is, I know that I believe it is the policy of the city to issue 1 rolling garbage cart to a unit or to a family unit. And so I'm wondering why these 3 people have so much trash that they can't get by with 1 rolling garbage cart.
Your guess is as good as mine on that. I mean, there are, you know, I can't even begin to imagine. My family is 2 people, and my cart is not even half full in any given week. These guys, it's full every single week. And, you know, I guess at some point, if it's 1 cart per unit, technically, that property should be allowed 2 carts then.
Right.
Well, because it is actually an upper lower, or, you know, considered one.
Okay.
It is considered a 2 family. But I only have, you know, I wanted it to be more of a home than a complex.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Any other questions from Mr. Hoff? Mr. Hoff, how much have you paid in inspection and reinspection fees?
To date, $250.
50? Okay, thank you. All right, anybody else here for this item? Anything else you want to add, Mr. Hoff, before we go back to discussing it as a committee?
The only thing, and this is, I guess it's kind of off topic, but it's on topic. When I've done these appeals, and I'm receiving the letters from the city of Green Bay to attend these meetings, I've been getting the letters after the meeting has already occurred. That's just something that I think the city council and or whoever deals with the process of this. I missed the first one because I didn't even get the letter. The second one, I got it was, you guys had ran over on a different one, but had it not been for Jamie at the city actually emailing me, and I would not even be at this meeting. This letter that looks like it was postmarked on the 2nd just showed up, or I'm sorry, the 9th just showed up in my mailbox this evening, right before I got home. So there's about a 5 to 7 day delivery cycle when you guys are mailing out these letters that it takes probably a week. It's just my own comment. Rather than scheduling them a week later, maybe you schedule them out for 2 weeks once the application is done, because this is the third time that. So
appreciate the information. Thank you, Mr. Hoff.
Sure.
Good to point that out. All right, well, I'll entertain a motion to return to regular order.
Return to regular order.
Motion by Alder Scannell, second by Alder Burnett. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. What are the wishes of the committee? Alder Gilak?
First of all, I have a little, I'd like to state how I feel about it, but then I'd like to hear from someone else. My thought is, I have grandchildren that age. I would, I believe from the pictures I have seen and from what Mr. Hoff has told us, that this tenant would benefit, the tenant, not the landlord, the tenant would benefit from having to pay the fee, the fine. That's just my grandmother position on it. But I'd like to hear from Mr. Pappy, because I have great respect for Mr. Pappy also, and I'd like to hear what he says about it.
Welcome aboard, Bill.
How you doing, guys? You got me okay?
Yep, you're good.
It's hard. We deal in the ordinance violation. Who's responsible for it? If it's a single family, I think Mr. Huff is more than able to pass that fee on to his tenants. I think the issue from my perspective is the tenants probably like to party a little bit too much, and we're having some garbage issues and stuff as a result. I wasn't there for the actual lot cleanup, but I did review the photos, and it is on par with other lot cleanups that we've done. I think the issue is being addressed by Mr. Huff. I haven't had any since that he's addressed it. That's just kind of where we stand on it from an inspection side. I think the pictures and the speak for itself. It's our common practice to clean up items when there are considered nuisance issues.
Any other questions, Alder Gilak or Alder Scannell?
Yeah, I have one for Bill. Bagged garbage in a garage, that's against city ordinance?
It can be, yeah. It usually gets into infestation and then noxious odors and stuff like that. Usually what happens is by the time that we get involved, there's usually a significant amount of garbage that's in there. The situation that Mr. Hoff is explaining, I'm not quite sure where the communication broke down there. If it was simply putting a bag of garbage in the garage until collection date, that wouldn't be an issue. I would be concerned about it from an inspection perspective, just for rodents, and depending on what kind of waste is in there and what kind of issues that may attract, I would suggest putting it into his own container. So I'm not quite sure where the communication broke down in that situation, but if he has a separate container that they put it in and store it in, as long as it's not anything that would be rancid or cause a noxious odor till they have garbage collection, we're fine with that. It's the storing of it outside and the types of waste that's stored in there that can cause other issues to kind of snowball.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Alder Scannell. Any other questions for Mr. Pappy? Bill, do you know, was the second garbage can a city one, or was it just a private one that they were using?
I recall, I believe it was a private one. I think Mr. Huff could probably confirm that. I think he's shaking his head. Yes, it was a private one. They have their own tipper cart. They have one tipper cart and one recycling bin. I believe it was a private container.
It was basically a trash can that was purchased at Menards.
Appreciate it. All right. All right, committee. Well, any other questions for staff, or what do you want to do with this one? Go ahead,
Okay,
Director.
the only thing that I wanted to also address, as you figured out from this discussion, this is really an issue with the inspection department and then a property owner. The reason we're involved in at all is because we're the ones who bring the heavy equipment. So what we have, our involvement is simply, we're taking direction from sixth floor. And I'm not looking to blame Bill or any of his staff or anything. It's simply to bring up that this is done on overtime and these are our costs. It's a cost for service that's provided. Not that it's germane to this particular invoice, just something to keep in mind that when we're discussing these services, this is something that's coming out of DPW budget. And we're just simply there to do what we're told to do.
Fair enough. All right, committee. Well, I'll entertain a motion on this one. Somebody must have a motion. Alder Scannell, go ahead.
I'm thinking that the defense for Mr. Hoff is that that inspection that there was work done, and he would be fine with the work if they had taken the things he thought they should have taken and left the things that he thought they shouldn't have taken. But if they had done that, he would still be getting the same bill. So I'm not sure where we screwed up as far as DPW following their orders and taking things out. And according to Bill, looking at the pictures, he seems to think that whatever miscommunication there might have been, that the staff did take out what they should have. So I don't understand some of the things that happened as far as, you think if like the bags of garbage outside, if they had their own garbage can, that should have been fine. But there was obviously a need for DPW to take some things. So I don't see how we can, I don't even know if a compromise would be appropriate. I wouldn't mind a compromise, but it seems to me DPW did what they were supposed to do, and it's overtime, and that's why it's so dang expensive. And I don't know how we can responsibly, holding up our end, help out Mr. Hoff here, which I think he's trying to do the best he can, but we have to, hold up our budgets, be responsible to the surrounding community, and I just don't see how we can compromise on this. If somebody else has got an idea, I think we have to deny.
Sounds like a motion.
Well, if there's further discussion, let's wait. Alder Gerlach?
Well,
Alder Gerlach?
I was just going to come to your rescue, Alder Scannell, because you're in a very difficult position. I understand that. And this is one of those tough situations where people probably didn't perform exactly the way they were supposed to. And the tenants, perhaps one of the inspectors, from what we're being told, I don't know anything about that, but obviously Mr. Hoff was unhappy with Brenda Seidel and her performance. There's a question as to whether that garbage can should have been taken away or not. So it's a difficult situation, but I believe this is one of those hard things in life where it's simply, we have to face the fact that it was a messy place. The tenants were probably not being very responsible. They probably hadn't been very responsible in the past. There was a complaint, apparently more than one. And I think that we just have to be tough and we have to say, no, we're going to deny this. And I hope that Mr. Hoff will pass this on to his young tenants and let them learn a lesson from it. And then I know that Mr. Huff, I hate to do this to the landlord, but he's going to learn a lesson from this too. It's all about learning lessons. So I would absolutely support denying this.
Is that a motion, Alder Gerlach?
Sure, I move to deny.
Okay.
I know Alder Scannell doesn't want to do that.
Doesn't matter. I'm
There's-
not going to be voting.
There's a motion by Alder Gerlach to deny the appeal. Is there a second to that? Was that a second, Alder Burnett, or you just?
I'll second. I'd like to speak to it if I
All right,
could.
second by Alder Burnett, and then discussion, Alder Burnett.
Yeah, these are tough decisions, and what I would encourage Mr. Hoff to know is that this goes to the full city council in a week. So if you're not happy with however the committee votes, you most certainly can appeal to the full city council, and I encourage you to do that. It's tough to be a landlord a lot of times in this city. It's tough also to be a housing inspector and a public works employee in this city. They're often in a very difficult position. And time again, being aldermen, we get calls where there's a lot of issues with the neighborhoods, and we get them all the time, quality of life issues. There could be properties that either fall into disrepair, or tenants just simply don't care, or an absentee landlord. I'm not suggesting that is the case with Mr. Hoff. He seems like a very reasonable and professional person, but it is hard for our housing inspectors because we task them with the responsibility, one, to follow city policy, and then two, to deal with sometimes a very angry or hostile public. And for me, there's no evidence to suggest that our employees acted inappropriately in this manner. And so it's hard. These are tough votes, because I get it. Knowing plenty of landlords, they're in a very tough position. But we also are in tough positions as city government. We can't pass on the cost of these sorts of things to the rest of the taxpayers. We have to be prudent with our resources, but we also have to be fair. Fair to the landlords, fair to the residents, and fair to our staff who have to make these judgment calls. So I might change my mind when this goes to the full city council, if there's more evidence or more, direction we receive from Mr. Hoff, but right now I'm fine with voting to deny the appeal.
All right. Thank you, Alder Burnett. Alder Scannell, did you have your hand raised at all?
No, my piece is really not much more to say. I was going to add, but Alder Gerlach got it in there that, I think it would be appropriate for the landlord to pass this on. I think what the city's doing is appropriate. I think what the landlord's recourse here is to pass that on to his tenants. I think that would be appropriate thing to do. So.
All right. Thank you, Alder Scannell. Without any other discussion that I can see, we have a motion and a second to deny the appeal. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Then next week, Tuesday, Mr. Hoff, there's 12 people on the council, so you can feel free to, plead it there. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And we will move on to item number 3. Item number 2, in consideration of possible action for Department of the costs of recycling plastics versus collecting plastics as garbage and implementing the process that saves the most money. Alder Galvin.
I
Alder
said,
Galvin,
yeah, I'm here.
yeah, all yours.
You got me? All right. So I heard this and I sent a copy of the article to the 4 alders. I heard it, and actually I just heard another follow-up to it. It was kind of more against the oil companies and how they con the states into believing plastic would be recycled hand over fist. And studies show that less than 10% of it is actually being recycled. And so I thought, well, if that's the deal, and I know we're no longer getting paid. From what I've found out, our tipping fees are less expensive for dumping materials that aren't recycled, but it's not as expensive, for the recycling materials. So I guess that kind of washes out. And I also found out there's a state statute that says you can't put plastics into a landfill. So, that kind of shuts the whole door on this thing anyway. But I guess I'm just, so there's not much we can do. But I think maybe we should look at this in the future, because if we're truly not recycling the plastic and it's just ended up being dumped somewhere else. And I don't know what the answer is exactly. I know some communities have ordinances against certain types of plastic being used in their community. Obviously, we're not an island, so people could just go into Alloway, Bellevue, whatever, buy it and bring it home, and they're still going to throw it in their trash. So I guess, my question has been pretty much answered along with that state statute. But I mean, anytime we can try and save the process or save monies for this kind of stuff, I think we should look at it. But obviously, I think unless someone can do some research from staff and find a way around this, it looks like our hands are tied.
Thank you, Alder Galvin. Director Grenier, is that pretty much?
Well, and Alder Scannell did reach out to Mark Walter, who's a recycling coordinator for Brown County. And Mark actually prepared a much more comprehensive and at the same time succinct answer than what I had prepared. So I did thank Mark today and told him I was actually throwing my stuff out and I was just going to use his. The short answer was State Statute Chapter 289 specifically prohibits the landfilling of recyclable material. So that's the shortest answer we can give. And until the state legislature takes a different action, we're kind of limited by what they'll allow us to do. And then Mark did go on to explain that actually plastics are of the entire commingled recycling stream, plastics are currently probably one of the higher priced commodities. We're getting the best price. So we're only paying $22.80 a ton through October this year to dispose of plastics, whereas to dispose of garbage is $43.61 a ton. It's definitely a far cry from the $35 a ton in revenue that we were getting 5 to 6 years ago. But to dispose of it as garbage would be twice the cost of what we're getting now. Even though this particular item didn't work out, I do want to say that I'm glad that Alder Galvin brought something like this up. We tend sometimes to be a little bit myopic. We've done work the same way, and these types of outside of the box kind of approaches force us to go in and talk to our peers and see if there is a better way. So appreciative of that to give us a reason to look at things again, even though this one didn't work out. Maybe the next idea that one of the alders has that comes forward does pay off. So we do encourage you guys to keep thinking of things like that.
Fair enough. All right.
Great.
Alder Scannell?
I just want to say that about a year ago, I think, Director Grenier can correct me if it's maybe a year and a half. We did at the Sustainability Commission, we were contacted by a group of possibly using plastics for roads as part of the composite. And Steve looked at that, and we had to bring in the county. They have their own asphalt plant, so they would have been involved. Gave it a good thorough going over, and I was really hopeful for a while there that we had a solution to a bunch of our plastics. They had taken all kinds of plastics, but it fell through. It didn't work out. So we are, we're looking, we're trying, but it ain't easy.
All right. Well, valiant effort, Bill. Good idea.
Yeah.
Worth a shot.
Yeah.
I'll entertain a motion to receive and place on file.
Motion to receive and place on file.
Second.
Motion by Alder Scannell, second by Alder Burnett. Any other discussion on that?
Aye.
Those in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you all.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Bill. Thanks, Alder Galvin. All right. Number 4, report of actions taken. Granting of licenses, sidewalk builders. Tri-North Builders is A, and B is Concrete Kings. Since those were actions taken, I just need to receive and place on file.
Motion to receive.
Second.
Motion to place on file.
Motion by Scannell, second by Burnett. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. Wow, we're not used to short agendas. What's this? A director's report.
Very brief director's report, just to remind the alders that fall loose leaf collection did begin on Monday. We started in the Wednesday routes on Monday. We are updating both our social media and the webpage daily to let residents know what routes we're in so they can try to plan ahead. So if folks are contacting you, by all means, please direct them over to those resources to assist them. We understand that the leaves sitting on the curb for an extended period of time causes the grass to go dormant. We get that. So we're trying to provide that daily update for folks so they know when to start raking and getting that stuff out. Operations Manager Pierlot did a series of 4 live shots this morning on Fox 11 to talk about this very issue with Justin Steinbrink. I was able to see 2 of them, and Chris did a great job with that. And Justin did a good job exploring the whys of proper leaf yard waste set out and what the impacts of that are. And then just one last shameless plug from me to you. Still open to suggestions if you folks have them on things that your residents may be interested in on service lines that we provide, that we can provide short 2-minute or so videos on for instruction. If you get a chance to go through the city services guide that DPW puts out and something pops into your head and says, hey, I get a lot of calls on this. Steve, you might want to think about putting a video together to explain this a little bit better. By all means, send those suggestions on. We'd be welcome to taking them.
Excellent. Questions for Director?
So you would rake in those suggestions? You wouldn't leave them alone?
By the pile.
I want a 2-minute video on his opinion on fluoride in water.
Oh, boy.
Solve that one for us, Steve.
Yeah, we should refer that to.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
I do have a question. Is it a fact that there is an ordinance against a garbage can or a recycling bin being visible from the street? I mean,
Yes.
is it absolutely carved in stone that nobody can see your garbage can or you have to be punished?
Well, that's a debate that goes back a lot of years when that first came through. It's from my understanding, and correct me, Steve, if I'm wrong, if you're standing directly in front of the house, if you can't see it.
There is an ordinance prohibiting the cart from being visible from the street. There are provisions whereby you can have a case-by-case evaluation performed.
Yeah.
Okay. Because, there are some homes that, like duplexes, that you just know that family is so crowded and their garage is so crowded, and they store them neatly in a place where they're visible, but they're neat and they don't bother anybody. And I just feel like we ought to leave those people alone. Maybe not?
We only enforce upon complaint.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, if there's no other questions, I'll entertain a motion to receive and place and file the report.
In place on file.
Second by Scannell, second by Burnett. And those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Our next meeting is tentatively scheduled, I believe, for, it says October 20th, but I think it's going to be November 4th, right?
I believe that is correct. We will correct that to
okay.
November 4th.
Perfect. All right then.
Motion
And I guess
adjourned.
we're done. Alder
Second.
Scannell and Alder Gerlach to adjourn. Those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. We are done. Have a
All
good
right,
evening.
thank you.
Thank you, guys.